Got it. Thank you, though. All right, our regularly scheduled council meeting of October 5th is now in session. Will you call the roll, please?
Thanks. Mayor Clark.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Brinkman. Here. Councilmember Cole.
Here.
Councilmember Cernanik.
Present.
Councilmember Stallman.
Here.
Councilmember Taylor.
Present.
Councilmember Trujillo.
Here. We have Stephen from Troop 263 that meets at St. Mary's, who's going to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Would you all rise with us?
Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Stephen. Any changes to the agenda?
I would like to add an item.
Okay.
This is in response to a communication we all received in our packet from a citizen who was wanting to know what we anticipate the impact to be of the 3 ballot initiatives if they would pass. And so I'd like us to
9B?
Yes, to add that. Thank you.
Okay. Any other changes? Then the agenda is approved as modified. Minutes for August 30th. Any updates, corrections? Good. Then those are approved as submitted. Minutes for September 13th. Those approved as submitted. Minutes for September 14th.
I think it's a correction, so I need to run this past council. On page 7, line 162, this says Director Thielen asked City Council if they wanted to continue the rental unit fees. I think he was asking if we want to continue the rental unit program and have it pay for itself with fees. Is that what you all are remembering? In which case the unit fee would be $20 annually. I'm seeing some heads nodding here.
Yeah. Anything else?
And in that one.
Okay. Then September 14th is approved with that modification. September 15th.
I have a question I want to ask on 15. That was the last night of our budget sessions, and we went through, Mayor Clark, on page 2, right where it says you recapped the budget hearing and went through all the increases in fees we'd done and the things that we decided we were going to add or delete from the budget in order to reach the 1.3 million we were striving to get. And then I believe you said something to the effect that you thought that the remainder, $307,280, that shortfall could possibly disappear or possibly be gained in some other manner, and that you thought it was not necessary to go forward with further cuts on that Wednesday night. And the reason why I bring that up is because we identify in the minutes that there is that shortfall, and yet when we get to the end of the minutes, we adjourn the meeting where there is no mention made as to what we were doing with that shortfall. So either in your comments you made when you were dealing with the line items of the budget, or at the very end of the minute, somewhere in there, there should be something to explain why we did not solve that gap.
I think it should be in the, just before the motion, because the motion was made as a way to monitor the approximate 300,000
Right.
Shortfall.
That's right.
And see if it increased. So can you remember how you said that, Mayor?
Well, if it's all right with you, I'll get together with Wendy sometime this week and figure out what it was that I said and put it in there. Is that agreeable with everybody?
Yeah.
And
Then-
to approve the minutes with that change?
No, I have a correction on page 1.
Okay.
I believe I'm right on this. The motion at the bottom of the page I believe should read, it was moved by Councilmember Cole and seconded by Councilmember Taylor to overturn the ruling of the chair. Was that?
Yes.
That's right.
I couldn't hear very good on that section,
Yeah, that's okay.
and so I think I started typing it and then never went back and finished it.
Yeah, I'll get together with you on that one, too, because,
Okay.
but the essence of what you're saying is, yes, the motion was to overturn the ruling of the chair.
And I don't know how it fits in this, but certainly I believe we left with an understanding in our discussion, and I'm not sure how to include it in the minutes, that absent other results coming from economic activity in the city, one of our tools that we may rely upon is to actually have furlough days, and I'm not sure that was captured.
I'll tell you what, we will bring these minutes back with some corrections in them for the next meeting.
That's
And,
good.
Add that item in also, because I believe what we agreed or talked about doing and agreed to do was do a quarterly review of the budget,
We
and
got
then
the
make
quarterly dates in there. Yeah.
and then make an assessment of that.
Would you like a motion to table that particular set of minutes till the next regular meeting?
Sure.
So moved.
Okay. It's been moved and seconded to okay. It's been moved and seconded to refer the minutes to a committee of two, which would be the city clerk and myself, and then it would be brought back by the committee to the council. Is that your second?
Yes.
All right. Discussion? Council ready to vote?
The vote is 7 in favor. The motion's approved.
All right. Now September 21st.
I have
Minutes.
4 corrections.
Sure.
On page 6,
Which one?
6.
line,
Six.
page 6, line 161, should have the word and suggesting, insert the word suggesting additional cuts.
Okay.
On page 7, line 200, the end of the line, it's wagon woof, W-O-O-F.
Okay.
Oops, making sure I've got all these. Page 8, line 237, that's the Town Hall Arts Center, not Town Arts Hall season. Well, it's Town Hall Arts Center season.
Okay. Anything else?
Actually, I had just 3. I think I got all 3. Thank you.
Anyone else with corrections? Then those minutes are approved as corrected. Still no new city employees?
Not tonight, no, sir.
Okay. Then we have a proclamation for National American Indian Heritage Month. Mr. and Mrs. Lois Sahlberg. Come on down.
Come on up, ma'am. Come on up to the front here. Yeah. So they can get you on TV.
Right.
This is a proclamation of the City of Littleton, Colorado, proclaiming the month of November 2010 as National American Indian Heritage Month. Whereas the heritage and culture of our great nation have been significantly influenced by American Indians and indigenous peoples, and whereas the contributions of American Indians have enhanced the freedom, prosperity, and greatness of America today, and whereas their customs and traditions are respected and celebrated as part of a rich legacy throughout the United States, and whereas Native American Awareness Week began in 1976 and recognition was expanded by Congress and approved by President George Bush in August 1990, designating the month of November as National American Heritage Indian Month. And now, therefore, I proclaim November 2010 as National American Indian Heritage Month in the City of Littleton, and urge all citizens to observe this month with appropriate programs, ceremonies, and activities. And Mrs. Solberg, are you an American Indian, or do you have American Indian blood?
No, I don't have any American Indian blood, but I'm a member of Mount Rosa DAR chapter, and we do many things for the American Indian.
Here's your proclamation.
And thank you very much, Mayor.
Certainly. Thank you. Next, we have Shirley Nixon from the Arapahoe Santa Claus shop.
Yes, good evening. Thank you so much for asking the Arapahoe Santa Claus shop to come and speak and give you just a little bit of an update. We're very fortunate to have you as the Littleton City Council supporting us both monetarily and volunteers. We'd like to see those volunteers at the shop. After 50 years, or over 50 years, a group of residents of Arapahoe County decided they needed to give some help to underprivileged families in Arapahoe County. And of course, this led to the creation of the Arapahoe Santa Claus shop. We go by the Arapahoe Santa shop. It's a little hard to get that clause in there every once in a while. It began back in Inglewood at a storefront, and I think it's 52 years ago now. There were 100 volunteers that got together, and they provided toys for 980 children the first year. Those days they gave clothing also besides toys. Last year, we had 500 volunteers supplying toys to 2,400 children, probably plus that. These volunteers are individuals, as Peggy has come to be with us on a couple of occasions, and then there's lots of groups. So I'd just like to share a little bit with you about our groups. The groups that come are like the Kiwanis, both Littleton and Inglewood, Lions, both Littleton and Inglewood, and the Sertoma group. Those fellas and gals, they come as a group to help us deliver our toys, either from storage over to the shop or any of the toy drop-off places that need to be picked up. One more group that I'm particularly appreciative is the Santa group, or the parents actually, of the South Suburban Christian Church. They bring stockings filled for us. In the last few years, we've had from 200 to 350, depending on how the families can get together and do that. And as you probably realize, we couldn't do this without this community support. The shop has been located in several locations, and the two that we think most of, probably none of my age or younger, would know about this, but the fair location, the fairgrounds, which is now your Cornerstone Park, that was one of our first locations in the 4-H building there. The most memorable, probably, and wasn't for me, I guess I'm thankful for that, was the old courthouse. They had no heat, no water. What water they had was frozen. They didn't stay there but 1 year, I think. They found somewhere else to go. Right now, our home is at the Arapahoe County Multipurpose Room at 5814 South Ventura. That group, the Extension Office, as well as the Arapahoe County, has provided this location for us for over 20 years. We are so grateful to them. Not only do they provide the space, but they also provide for us food through the USDA program, which is an emergency assistance food program, and that they house there. They put together 700 boxes for us last year. We have about 30 volunteers that come to help year-round and also work diligently August into December. They are always looking for bargains. 93% of our budget, our monetary budget, goes to the toys. So you have a pretty good number there, I think. We have 9 departments that work with these toys. I guess I would like to we've got these volunteers are like, some of them have been around 20 to 25 years. That's a long time. That's a lot of dedication. 2 of those are the ladies that work in the doll department. I need to tell you just a little bit about them. Those ladies they make the clothes for the dolls. At one point, there was a lady who made shoes for the dolls. So talk about dedicated, year-round. They also oversee the cradles that come in from a gentleman in Brush, Colorado. He's 83 years old, and he's been working for 20 years for us, making wooden cradles, plus other wooden things. The Hands All Around group, you might know about them. They're a sewing group that meet at the Buck Center. They provide 200 to 300 quilts for us for those cradles. The other group I wanted to feature was the bicycles. We give away both a youth size and children's size. They work year-round on that one also, and they clean and repair about 55 bicycles a year. With the Littleton Cycling House here in Denver, or here in Littleton, they provide discount parts for us. It's a generous donation. And of course, our other departments are such things as boys and girls, and we also have older boys and girls. They're a little difficult to get bargains for. We keep looking for all those bargains for them. The book department, we have games department and preschool. The book department cleans and puts together books, 5,000 books each year. About that many come in that they can't use, so they put them in what we call the no points department. And that is anything that comes in that we think could still be used. Parts of things are missing, but parents sometimes will pick those up and take them home and make them work. And then, of course, we've got the stuffed toys. We always have too many of those, but we have lots of agencies that will take those if we don't. Most of all, we're very grateful for not only your donations, but we also have a great respect for the referrals that we get from the 3 school districts, Littleton, Inglewood, and Sheridan. If it wasn't for them, we couldn't have the program. They refer families that they feel are in need, these with the children their ages 0 through 12. Well, beginning on December 1st, we will have 8 days to clean and to arrange the toys. By Thursday morning, December the 10th, 9:30, we will be open. This room will be looking like a toy store. The moms and dads will be given 100 points per child, and they will then go around and shop because each item will have a point system on it. We are in need of toy drop-off locations, so if any of you know of a place that we could put a box, a decorated box with our sign on it, we'd appreciate it. My number is on the website, so you can look that up. and we'd be happy to look into it. You'll notice on the flyer, there's an awful lot of businesses that have been loyal for us a long time and some new ones that have just joined us. So what I say to you is, come visit us. We might put you to work, but you know what? We'd love to show you around. Thanks for having me.
But don't get away. Aren't you also eager to have volunteers? Right? I mean, anybody out there watching? Anybody on council?
Absolutely, Peggy.
Okay.
Volunteers are important. As I said earlier, they come as groups and they can come as individuals. Now, if they come as groups, on the website it tells you who to call so that you can come as a group. We like to schedule those in areas in which we have time to have things for them to do. Thank you, Peggy.
Yeah.
Thank you, Shirley.
And a note, Kelly, I'm not sure whether we have it or not, but putting a link on the city website to the website that's mentioned here, as well as their email and contact information, would be great.
That email, we're going to have to change that. It's not working right now. Don't know what's going on. I just found out yesterday. So I'll let Kelly know when that thing gets changed. So thank you, Nola.
Okay, thank you. That brings us to unscheduled public appearances, which is a time for any citizen to come down and ask us a question or express an opinion. We ask that you limit yourself to about 4 minutes and state your name and address, please.
Good evening. My name is Dave McCabe. I'm the owner of Community Corrections CSP Incorporated, and for the last approximately 13 years, it's been my pleasure to run the community service program for this city. Before I leave, there are two issues I would like to address. The first, I feel it's necessary to thank some of the people that helped me in those 13 years. First and foremost would be Judge James S. Kimmel. He actually saw a real need and value of my program. Pat Spindler and all the clerks of the court that I worked with over the years, invaluable asset to the city. Brad Bailey, Alan Katz, and Debbie Patton. They always had good advice, always helpful, and great friends. The men and women of the Littleton Police Department, bar none, some of the best officers in the state. And believe it or not, Jim Woods. I always heard he was an honorable man. My dealings with him have not changed that opinion at all. Thank you. Second, I'd like to discuss the issue of uncollected community service fees. In the approximate 10-year period, I estimate over $100,000 have not been collected in community service fees. My job was to run the community service fees, the community service program. The city's job was to collect those fees. Through the years, I've tried to collect these fees myself. I tried to see if these fees could be turned over to collections. At these requests, I was told no. At the same time, however, I was still required to do the work. I have done what the contract required of me in this matter. My attorney states the first step in addressing this issue is to contact city manager and council to see what can be done to rectify this situation. I look forward to the council's response in the near future to this matter. And again, I would like to thank the city for having the opportunity to serve them. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McCabe. We'll research it and get back to you. Anyone else? All right, that brings us to the consent agenda. And the consent agenda is a grouping of items that can be adopted by a simple motion and are, at least in theory, non-controversial. First item that we have is a resolution supporting the proposed expansion of the Arapahoe County Enterprise Zone. Read that by title, please.
This is a resolution of the City Council of the City of Littleton, Colorado, supporting expansion of the Arapahoe County Enterprise Zone.
And I have several questions, so I'd like to pull the item.
All right, we'll pull 7A. 7B is a resolution affirming the City of Littleton 3-mile plan.
This is a resolution of the City Council of the City of Littleton, Colorado, affirming the City of Littleton's 3-mile plan.
And I have at least one question. Pull it, please.
Okay. 7C. Okay, 7C is a motion authorizing the 2011 Community Development Block Grant. We get a chunk of money from Arapahoe County, or I should say we apply for a chunk of money. They may grant us that money. It comes as a Community Development Block Grant. We are applying for $250,000.
$150,000.
$150,000. $127,500 would go to replace sidewalks and widen sidewalks in an area bounded from Bellevue on the north, Windermere on the east, Crestline on the south, and Prescott on the west. Another $22,500 would be allocated to doctor's care for a integrated care health initiative. Next item is first reading on ordinances 7D through 7J, and I'm pulling all of those because we need to have dates in the motions. So that leaves us with 7C.
I move for the adoption of consent agenda item 7C.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to adopt the consent agenda. Item 7C. Discussion? Council ready to vote?
Vote is 7 in favor. The motion's approved.
Okay. Let's start with 7A.
Who would be the person to ask questions of, Jim?
Probably Chris Gibbons, our Business and Industry Affairs Director.
Chris, why don't you just give a very brief overview?
Of the zone, of
Yes.
what we're doing here.
What we're doing here, please.
There is a map that's about 3 or 4 pages back that shows you an existing enterprise zone. This is established by the state of Colorado.
Chris, why don't you just put the map up there, and then for the people that are in TV, Kelly, can we get that up there just so that we can share this with the TV audience maybe? Maybe you can blow that up a little bit. Give you something to kind of talk off of there, Chris.
So there is an existing zone that exists, and these are established by the state of Colorado. Do you need me to stop?
I was going to say,
Is that not on?
Yeah.
our screen's not on.
Go ahead and talk, Chris. We can follow you.
Sure. So this zone has been established for quite a while. This is a state of Colorado tax credit zone. Essentially, there are a series of things you can get tax credits for. They're listed in the packet. There's a number of these, so I won't go through these. But the intention of the zone is to bring economic activity to areas that are somewhat stressed. And the zone runs through 3 cities, Englewood, Sheridan, Littleton. It is actually administered by the city of Englewood. Their staff does it. The city of Englewood contacted us and asked us if we would be in support of an expansion of that zone, and it has actually been expanded a couple of times. If you will note on the current map, the dark blue and the light blue that's at the bottom, so it would be this area and this area. This is actually an expansion that we did several years ago, and I don't have the exact date. So I'm going to put a second map up there so you can see what they're proposing to do to expand it this time. There is some expansions that are in red up in Englewood. You can see toward the top end of the map, but the portion that is of interest to us is in yellow down in the lower left-hand corner of the map. It actually includes a shopping center that's in the city of Littleton called Centennial Square, and then also a shopping center that's right next to it, which is most people would refer to as the King Soopers Center that's up there on Bellevue. Both of these are on Bellevue, west of the river, on the north side of the street. And this is a map of the area much closer. that gives you a sense of what they're proposing to expand here. So the left-hand side, the red portion is in Inglewood. The yellow portion of it on the right-hand side is in the city of Littleton. Does that give you a...
Chris, I'll just fill in a little bit. And this is really established under Colorado statute by the state.
Right.
And as I recall, what it does provide is actual state tax credits.
Yes.
To, I think, maybe either for both income tax or corporate tax. So it's really a state program, but different cities have to apply for it. But the legislation was really approved by the Colorado legislature, and the tax credits all come back through state-paid taxes. But the legislature set these up, as Chris said, for distressed areas. They're initiated by local governments, but it's really a state program in terms of how the tax credits work.
There's no fiscal impact on the city of Littleton per se, meaning we do not pay any of those credits. It comes when they file their state income tax, and it is a credit that comes off of the tax.
And though there is a possibility for the local jurisdiction to provide additional incentives, none are being proposed at this time.
Yeah, there's certainly a possibility, right? This is just an expansion of the zone.
Yeah, and I'm very familiar with the area, so I understand the desire, particularly in this area, to possibly be looking at it as more of a unit and as possibilities. What are some of the risks, advantages, or disadvantages to the property owners in this area?
I think the risks are minimal, if non-existent. I don't think there's anything. In fact, I contacted the owners. They're out in Los Angeles, and I got an email back from them and said they are in support of it. The upside is that if they should decide to redevelop that, then some of these tax credits may apply. The credits are very specific. Some of them are for health insurance, investment credits, and so you have to meet the criteria. But it is certainly possible that that would help if they decide to redevelop that center.
Thank you, Chris.
Any other questions for Chris?
Yeah, is this for 2010 application or 11?
It goes in the end of this month, and I'm not exactly sure when it takes effect. I can find that out for you if you like.
I thought that I remembered in the legislature this past spring that they didn't fund this for this year, that this was one of the things that was cut because of their need to find budget.
I'm not aware of that. If it's the case,
Okay,
I can
and
certainly go check.
maybe they were talking about it and I lost track of the status.
Okay, I'll check it out for you
Okay.
to be absolutely sure.
And when does this expire, if ever?
Well, as long as the legislature is in a session, you don't know the answer to that.
I don't think it has an actual expiration date, Mayor.
Okay.
I think once you set one up, I don't think there's a sunset, like Chris said, unless the legislature were just to decide to discontinue the tax credits, would probably be the big trigger if they, as Dr. Cole said, if they just decided they couldn't do the tax credits, then the program would really become pretty ineffective.
And it does get discussed off and on about whether they should continue
ma'am.
the
Well,
program.
and I may just be
No,
misremembering.
I think your recollection, it was discussed. I'm kind of like Chris. I don't remember whether they went ahead, but Inglewood approached us, so this is really kind of a partnership effort, actually, with Inglewood and Sheridan. And they've done all, as Chris said, they've done all the legwork on this, and they administer the paperwork with the state. So there's really very minimal impact on us. We're just trying to be cooperative neighbors, and if somebody puts something together there, maybe we'll get some benefit.
But before the state will act, they want a resolution from all the participating entities.
Any other questions for Chris? How about a motion, Phil?
I move the resolution supporting the proposed expansion of the Arapahoe County enterprise be approved by the Littleton City Council.
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Discussion. Bruce?
I was just going to your question, Mayor, according to the map here at the bottom, all of the font is really tiny. It looks like some of the original enterprise zone dates back to 1990, so
Yeah.
it looks like it sort of, once it's there, it never goes away.
That's kind of the impression I got, too.
Yeah.
All right, any other discussion? Motion is to approve the resolution supporting the proposed expansion of the Arapahoe County enterprise. Council ready to vote?
The vote is 7 in favor. The motion's approved.
Thank you, Chris. Next item is 7B, which is a resolution affirming the city's 3-mile plan. Bill?
Yes. Question that I had on the affirmation of the area is, I know we had some discussions earlier this year about potentials of annexation and that, and with that, there was a recognition that state parks are not necessarily recognized as impinging or dealing with the city's boundaries. And as I look at the map that's presented there with 2009, it doesn't recognize that Chatfield State Park would not be or the city's boundaries would effectively be extended to where the park boundaries would be. And that's my question.
The annexation law that talks about contiguity indicates that state parks are not included for the calculation of contiguity. This statute does not do that. So you could, in fact, have a circumstance where a state park is more than 3 miles wide, and you could meet the contiguity, but you couldn't meet this statute that will only allow you to annex 3 miles past your boundary, because this statute does not have a similar exemption within it.
And as background for the audience, there's basically 2 things that govern annexation. One is, I believe there has to be 1/6 contiguity between the area that you're going to annex and the city that's doing the annexation. Then there's a separate requirement that requires or that limits all annexations to only happen within a 3-mile radius of the edge of the city within any 1 year. And that requires the city to have a 3-mile plan in place before the annexation can happen. We have one that we passed, I believe, last year, was it? And this is a reaffirmation of that plan with no changes since the city boundaries haven't changed. This would have to be in place if we were going to annex. The issue that Phil brings up is because of the location of the city, the almost entirely the property that's within the 3-mile radius is all already developed. There's only a little small segment that's undeveloped, and that's immediately south of Chatfield. They would be within the 3-mile radius. But nevertheless, if we had any intention of annexing, we would have to have a 3-mile plan in place before we could undertake the annexation. So this is a resolution that would approve that 3-mile plan. Any questions for Jan or anybody else? Phil, you want to do the honors again?
Let me find the words here. Okay. I move the resolution of the City Council of the City of Littleton, Colorado, affirming the City of Littleton's 3-mile plan be approved and the Council President be authorized to affix his signature thereto.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve the resolution affirming the city's 3-mile plan. Discussion? Let's ready to vote.
The vote is 7 in favor. The motion's approved.
Okay. 7C we already did with the consent agenda, so that brings us to 7D, which is an ordinance on first reading, amending city code for failure to obey lawful order. If you'll read that by title, please.
This is an ordinance of the City of Littleton, Colorado, amending Section 6-4-16 of the City Code relating to failure to obey a lawful order.
Okay, and the motion doesn't have a public hearing or second reading date, so if somebody wants to make a motion, they should add that date in, please.
I will move that the ordinance amending the Littleton City Code, Section 6-4-16, pertaining to failure to obey a lawful order be approved on first reading, set for public hearing and posted on the city's website, City Center, Bemis Library, Municipal Courthouse, and set the public hearing date for 2 weeks from tonight.
Which would be October 19th.
Second.
Okay, It's been moved and seconded to approve the ordinance on first reading. Discussion?
I actually had one question.
Sure.
I guess I wanted to just ask one of the gentlemen representing the police department, when how is this whole thing interpreted as far as the officers in the field? I mean, it strikes me, Commander, that if a police officer gives someone a direction, there's going to be compliance with the direction, you would assume, and I guess ultimately, how do your guys address this, and what becomes a serious inconvenience as far as the practical application of this law is concerned?
An example of this might be we're at a disturbance and officers are trying to make an arrest and somebody keeps getting basically in their face, coming upon them to interfere with that. They give them a lawful order to move backwards so that they can take the action they need in the arrest, and this person continues to interfere with that action after they've given them the lawful order.
Okay, and the way it stands right now, that wouldn't, they could, there's nothing they can do to remove that situation from what they're trying to do as far as take somebody else into custody. Is that?
This makes it very specific. We have used the ordinance that has to do with the compliance to the direction of the police officer, but it's not specific to a lawful order, and that's what we want to make this one specific.
So it's sort of closing a loophole in some.
Yes.
Okay. And I mean, as far as the training, your guys' training for the officers and so forth and so on, it gets pretty precise in terms of, or does it, how precise does it get in terms of when you guys go through this, or the fire department would go through this in terms of are there, what the applications need to be, as opposed to just any time somebody says something, if there's not immediate compliance, it's a problem?
No, they receive training not only when they first come on, but when we do legal updates, the officers have the training in what would be a lawful order and what gives them the ability to give that lawful order.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you, Commander. The motion is to approve the first reading and set a public hearing and second reading date for this ordinance. Council, ready to vote?
Vote is 6 in favor, with Councilman Clark voting no. The motion's approved.
Okay, that brings us to item 7E. If you can read that by title, please.
This is an ordinance of the City of Littleton, Colorado, amending the city code with the addition of Section 6-4-41, false imprisonment.
This is an ordinance that basically would add a crime of false imprisonment, which is unlawful confinement or detention of someone without someone's consent. Somebody want to make a motion and add October 19th as the second reading date, please?
I move that the ordinance amending the Littleton City Code with the addition of Section 6-4-41 pertaining to false imprisonment be improved on first reading, set for public hearing October 19th, 2010, and posted on the city's website, City Center, Bemis Library, and Municipal Courthouse.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve the first reading and set a public hearing of October 19th. Discussion? Council, ready to vote?
The vote is 7 in favor. The motion's approved.
All right, that brings us to item 7F, if you can read this by title, please.
This is an ordinance of the City of Littleton, Colorado, amending the city code with the addition of Section 6-4-39, motor vehicle theft.
And this is a ordinance that would make motor vehicle theft a city crime. Somebody want to read the motion? Adding October 19th as the public hearing.
I move that the ordinance enacting the Littleton City Code Section 6-4-39 pertaining to motor vehicle theft be approved on first reading, set for a public hearing on October 19th, and posted on the city's website, City Center, Bemis Library, and the Municipal Courthouse.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve this ordinance on the first reading. It said October 19th is the public hearing date. Council ready to vote?
The vote is 6 in favor, with Councilman Clark voting no. The motion's approved.
Item 7G, if you can read that by title.
An ordinance of the City of Littleton, Colorado, amending the city code with the addition of Section 6-4-40, motor vehicle trespass.
This is an ordinance that basically sets up trespass to happen within a motor vehicle. If, I guess, somebody gets in the car and you don't want them in the car, or doesn't leave the car and you want them to leave the car, they would make this a crime of trespass. Somebody going to make a motion and add October 19th.
I move that the ordinance adding Section 6-4-40 pertaining to motor vehicle trespass be approved on first reading and set for public hearing on October 19, 2010, and posted on the city's website, the city center, Bemis Library, and the municipal courthouse.
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve the ordinance on first reading and set October 19th as the public hearing, second reading date. Council ready to vote?
No discussion?
Discussion?
Yes, I'm opposing this. I did talk with our city attorney today after I had read a good bit of the police section in the code book, and we already have an ordinance that covers this situation. It's 641A, just our general trespassing. And a car is personal property. Vehicles are personal property, so we don't need a separate ordinance to get people out of our personal property. And I think it's good that we don't duplicate with such things. So it doesn't seem to me that we need it, given, and I do have, if you want me to read part of that section of code. Would you like me to read that? It says, "It shall be unlawful for any person to enter or remain upon property, real or personal, of another without the consent of the owner or occupant of said property. And it shall be unlawful for a person to fail to remove himself or herself immediately from the property of another when requested to leave by the owner or the occupant of said property, or the agent, employee, servant, or custodian of said owner or occupant."
Okay. Further discussion?
Yeah, follow-up question, if I could, to the commander in this. Given that this is originated by the police department, maybe you could comment on the need that this fills, given Councilman Cole's reading of another section of the code.
The what Councilman Cole, or Councilperson Cole has just read is correct, that the trespassing could encompass this. It's just more specific to the motor vehicle theft. This duplicates state statute does have our trespassing under criminal trespass and our motor vehicle, and they do have a motor vehicle theft statute. We're just duplicating that. Some of the records keeping and tracking, since motor vehicle theft, and we have the grant that deals with motor vehicle thefts, are specific to that, and researching and going to those different types of crime. Trespass is just very general. The motor vehicle theft is specific to that. I'm not sure if that answers your question, but we're adding something that would be more specific that we'd have more control over.
Okay. Thank you.
And this will sometimes be used for, say, the passenger in a motor vehicle theft would be charged with the motor vehicle trespass. And I think part of the reason when we talk about record keeping is that if we were going to go find out if it was an aggravated offense, somebody had reoffended, would the general trespass be enough to trigger someone to believe that there had been a prior history, or would you need something more specific to get to that point?
So let me ask then, since you said that, since I specifically asked whether or not our current ordinance took care of what you just said, and I understood you today when we talked to say yes. Are you saying now that it doesn't really take care of it?
No, it has the same elements. And so when you're charging a crime, the title really has no effect on the charge. I think we talked about that on another one where the imprisonment, whether or not the title had any effect. But the reason it has an effect for PD is just in a record-keeping way. So we could still charge it. I don't see anything different in the elements. It may just not be considered an aggravating, or they may not be able to see it if it happened in Littleton if they charged it as a trespass. I'm not sure police would use it. I think they would continue to, and maybe I'm wrong, but my feeling is those would continue to be charged in the county. Have you ever used trespass for a joyrider? Regular trespass?
Yeah, up to this point, we would like to have something more specific,
So
particularly,
you have used it?
particularly if it becomes more aggravated and becomes a felony charge. The history checking on that would show the previous motor vehicle thefts versus just general trespassing.
So it's up to council. It is covered, and apparently they are using it. So
Any other discussion? Council ready to vote?
The vote is 4 in favor with Councilwoman Cole, Councilman Clark, and Councilman Trujillo voting no. The motion is approved.
Item 7H, if you can read that by title, please.
an ordinance of the City of Littleton, Colorado, amending the city code with the addition of Section 6-4-43 relating to violation of a court order.
This is an ordinance that makes it illegal not to comply with a valid order issued by the court pertaining to, I guess, an appearance that somebody has had in front of the judge or the court.
And it's actually specific to domestic abuse orders.
For domestic abuse orders. Questions? Motion?
You need to clear the vote board, Mayor.
Thank you.
I move that the ordinance amending the Littleton City Code with the addition of Section 6-4-43 pertaining to violation of a court order be approved on first reading, set for public hearing on October 19th, 2010, and posted on the city's website, the city center, Bemis Library, and the municipal courthouse.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve the ordinance on first reading. Did you get the October 19th in there?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and set the public hearing and second reading for October 19th. Discussion? Council ready to vote?
The vote is 7 in favor. The motion's approved.
Item 7I. Title, please.
An ordinance of the City of Littleton, Colorado, amending the city code with the addition of Section 6-4-42, reckless endangerment.
This makes it a crime to recklessly engage in conduct which creates a substantial risk of serious bodily injury to another person. I want to get a motion, and then we can have any discussion.
I move that the ordinance amending the Littleton City Code with the addition of Section 6-4-42 pertaining to reckless endangerment be approved on first reading, set for public hearing October 19, 2010, and posted on the city's website, city center, Bemis Library, and municipal courthouse.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve the ordinance on first reading and sets the second reading to public hearing for October 19th. Bruce?
I guess I will, Suzanne, ask the sort of the question on this one as well. This one, help me understand how we don't already have something in the code that makes reckless endangerment illegal.
Well, for instance, I believe our assault ordinance requires an injury. So if you had a situation where somebody pointed a gun at somebody but didn't fire it, that could be a reckless endangerment, but not an assault. And so we're covering crimes that more would probably put someone in fear that that was going to happen rather than the follow-through.
But ostensibly, this is, again, covered in the state statutes criminal statutes, and so at some level, it's just aligning what we've got with the state so we can prosecute it municipal instead of county?
Right. All of these have a counterpart in the state statute,
Yeah.
except for the restraining order violation, because the state doesn't recognize our no contact orders. They're not issued by state court, so that one's a little bit different. There is no direct counterpart on that one, but the rest of these, there's already a counterpart, and they're just an attempt to codify it so that we can have local control over it.
Okay.
Further discussion? Council ready to vote?
The vote is 6 in favor, with Councilman Clark voting no. The motion's approved.
All right. I believe this is the last one. If you could read this by title, please.
This is an ordinance of the City of Littleton, Colorado, amending the city code with the addition of a new subsection 6-4-34, possession of cannabis definition.
All right, this is an ordinance that would set a fine of $25 if somebody's convicted of possession of cannabis or various paraphernalia. Can we get a motion, please?
I move that the ordinance amending the Littleton City Code, Section 6-4-34, adding a new subsection, be approved on first reading, set for public hearing October 19th, 2010, and posted on the city's website, City Center, Bemis Library, and Municipal Courthouse.
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve the first reading and set October 19th as the public hearing and second reading date for the ordinance. Discussion?
I have a question on the $25 fee or cost to be paid. Surcharge, I think, is the term. How do we know whether that's adequate or not? What study has been done? Thank you, Commander Christensen.
I'll try to answer that because it is a guess. Typically, we'll end up spending up towards of a couple $1,000s a year to destroy the drugs. It goes through, and that doesn't figure our time. That's what we join in with it, use the incinerator. We have to pay a fee to use that incinerator, and a lot of man hours because we have to go through a weighing process and verify the exact drug and all that kind of stuff before we can destroy it. So the $25, we'll run 150 roughly cases a year that we think this may apply to, somewhere between 100, 150. So the $25 was just to try and offset those costs.
Any other questions?
Yes, I have a question for city manager. Such charge would go to the general fund, is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I just want us to have that on record. Thank you.
And just for the record and for the TV audience, this is Commander Bill Christensen, police commander, who's the head of our investigation division with our police department.
Thank you, Bill. Any other discussion? Questions? Council ready to vote? The first reading for adding a $25 fee for cannabis or paraphernalia.
The vote is 5 in favor, with Councilman Clark and Councilman Trujillo voting no. The motion is approved.
Jim.
Yes, this is comments is for Commanders Bill and Bob. There's been so much in the media recently about police abuse, and I think there's lots of potential here for these ordinances that we did on first reading tonight for that to occur. And I would hope that you would use these, specifically these that are going forward, to use as training purposes for the troops out on the street. I don't want to see us get in the same reputation that some of the other communities around the country have had with police exercising very strong police powers, and that our troops would get trained well enough that they know how to handle the situation without trying to involve all of this and hauling all these people into court.
And I'll just make a general statement that it's our job to ensure the public safety and welfare of the citizens, but it's a very delicate balance between assuring that safety and welfare and becoming onerous in the laws that we put on, these are all first readings.
I know.
So we have questions on the second, but frankly, if I get something in front of me that is taking away people's rights or restrictions or adding new laws on it, I'm not going to vote for it unless I see or I can divine some legitimate reason that might be answered on the second reading. And so that's why I voted no on a number of these different ones. But that brings us to item 9A, which is a funding request for South Platte Park improvements.
And I'm not sure, Ms. Lorenz, are you making this presentation? All right. Dave Lorenz, Executive Director of South Suburban Parks and Rec.
I think the buck's been passed to you, Dave.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I appeared before Council last December to update you on the South Platte Park projects, which are part of the South Platte Working Group, which received the Great Outdoors Colorado Legacy Grant, and to ask you for your financial assistance on these projects. South Suburban originally committed over $500,000 to the multiple projects involved in South Platte Park. Great Outdoors Colorado pledged $325,000. Arapahoe County Open Space pledged $160,000. We had a Fishing is Fun grant from the Department of Wildlife for $113,000. And after my appearance here, the city committed $104,280 to various projects, including $50,000 to the entry road and parking lots. We are making more than $1 million in improvements and enhancements to South Platte Park, which the city is the owner of. The reason I'm here tonight, when we bid the entry road and the parking lots, the bid came in more than $350,000 over our original projections, which, by the way, were estimated 3 years ago when we put together ideas and projects for the GOCO Legacy Grant. Actually, and I think this is an important point, the asphalt part of the road construction came in on budget. 3 years ago, we estimated the square footage of the asphalt road times the asphalt price, and the bid contract came in almost exactly in what we had projected. But we didn't anticipate all the other amenities that had to be required. Specifically, additional requirements by the U.S. Corps of Engineers. The project is actually on their land. Some of the city's own requirements on our construction, and the other entities who have easements across the Corps property. I think there were about 7 different groups that had easements across the property, added to the increased cost. If you want details of the problems that we got into, Brett Collins, our senior park planner, and who's managing this project, is in the audience and can give you specific details. However, the good news is our board decided to go ahead and fund the project even with the cost overrun, because they believe of the value of the project and the need to provide year-round access to the Mary Carter Greenway Trail and to South Platte Park. Currently, during inclement weather, rain and snow, the road has to be closed at Platte Canyon, and people can't get to the trail or to the park. During rain and snow, many people were getting stuck in the parking lots as they become very muddy and unusable. The South Suburban Board asked me to go back to our various funding partners to see if they would be willing to increase their contribution. I have 2 specific requests for the City Council. One, the cost to asphalt and provide curb and gutter of the parking lot is $76,663. As the city has a requirement that parking lots in the city must be paved, and as you own South Platte Park, would you consider funding the cost of the parking lots? This would help us a lot. Second, in the beginning, we discussed improving the circulation where the parking traffic and the Mary Carter Greenway Trail merges. I know this was a major concern of Councilperson Brinkman. And where the trail goes under C-470 is really a congested area. We had designed a roundabout which we thought would help the traffic patterns, but due to the significant cost overruns, it was eliminated from the final contract award. The cost for the roundabout is about $57,000. Would the city be interested in funding that particular project, which is currently not part of the project that is being financed? We would appreciate if the city would consider either, or better yet, both of the particular options that I presented. I'd be happy to answer any questions, and if you want details, Mr. Collins will have to come down.
Dave, would you give us the first figure again?
The parking lot is $76,663.96. This is already a bid price.
Is that one lot?
No, that's the 2 lots. Three lots.
It's all 3. It's not that times 3.
And how much of this additional cost is due to the new picnic tables and children playgrounds that are down there?
Children's playgrounds?
Don't go for that, David. Don't go there.
Thank you, Mr. Woods. I wasn't sure where he was going.
All right, any other questions of?
I might say, if I might, Mayor, that the other projects down there are coming in right on or at budget.
Do we have an appropriation in the open space that we can pull this money out of if we choose to do it?
Yes, sir. I think we had $2 million in what we called undesignated. If you recall, we appropriate that. Okay. And I think we've drawn down, I think our share of INSR was $1 million. So we probably have close, several $100,000 easily, I would say, in that you've already appropriated in 2010 in that undesignated. So if council wants to fund some of that, all we'd have to do is move it into a line item for finance, and those funds are already appropriated.
Okay. Questions for Mr. Lorenz? In that case, I'll move that the city provide $133,663.90 in additional funding for the 2010 South Platte Park improvements from the Open Space Fund, and that would include a roundabout.
Second. Why didn't you just round it up to $664?
He said. Discussion. Deb.
Well, I guess when I was looking at this and having sat on the South Platte group for 3 years, was sorely disappointed that it came in under budget so substantially. Over budget, excuse me. And I'm also somewhat disappointed that the board approved it being over budget by $351,000 and hoping that somehow or another the funding partners would all rally back in. I'm not entirely certain why this wasn't presented last Wednesday when we presented opportunities to go back to GoCo to use some of the $1.8 million that is still sitting on the table that we need to use before the end of the year or lose it. I think this is I think portions of this are an important project. I think I've never been a huge fan of paving that entire road. I understand that, there is a need for it, but I look at this and I think if Charlie, when he brings these bids to us, if they come in, look, there's a lot of stuff that needs to be considered in them. And I guess my point is without I don't want to, belabor the point or beat you up or do any of that. You're a partner. It's our park. We need to take care of it. We've got money in it. You've got money in it. There's other partners. We need to take care of it and move on. But I just hope there's some big lessons learned from this. When we're doing projects like this, it's more than the price of asphalt. We sat there for 3 years at South Platte Working Group, and the report on this was always, we're working on it. There's a lot of details. It's very difficult. We've got easements. And so all of those in some way are really probably lessons and triggers that we need to heed a bit instead of kind of basing some of this stuff off 3-year-old estimates, which I'm probably telling you things you already know. But I feel like I need to say them. I'm also somewhat disappointed that the first thing that gets cut is a roundabout. I see it as a life-saving piece. I see it as vitally important. We have a roundabout on that trail at this point, which
at some level is memorial for a head-on collision that killed a cyclist. It's not a dispensable piece of trail work. And when you've got a situation down there where you're actually looking at increasing the traffic, it's disappointing to me that it was the first thing to go off the board. I am glad to see that we have funds available to be able to put that back in the plan. I'm disappointed that we've had to.
Bruce?
I appreciate the comments. If I could just respond to one part about the GOCO. I was with Hillary Merritt and Justin, and when we went down to GOCO, and we did ask them about this. They have different departments, and they didn't want to take any money allocated for acquisition to development. So they told us we had to meet with another person down at GOCO, and I'm trying to meet with that individual. She's a new one. She replaced the individual that was with us when we did the golf cart tour of the trail. Her name's Jackie, and I can't remember her last name. I'm trying to set up that meeting with her to see if they have any other funds that they might earmark to this. I've also approached the Arapahoe County Open Space and are waiting for their answers.
Thank you, Dave. Bruce?
Where, Dave, on this map, and I don't know, you can stick it on the overhead there if we can throw it up there. Where exactly is the roundabout located?
Brett, would you show where that's at exactly? It's right where the last parking lot enters the Mary Carter Greenway Trail before you go under C-470 in that big tub. This is Brett Collins, our senior park planner.
What are we looking for?
The roundabout.
Roundabout.
Can you zoom out a little bit? There we are.
Platte Canyon's here. The entry road starts right here where the boat place is.
Right.
Come down, your first parking lot's there.
There's a trail.
Yeah.
Third parking lot with the car roundabout or turnaround is right here, and then the roundabout on the Mary Carter Greenway would be right there. And we'll go past where C-470 is right here.
Oh, I see what you're talking about. Okay, so you're talking about this roundabout, adding this roundabout on the trail, not in the parking.
On the trail, not in the parking lot.
Okay, I'm with you now. I'm with you. Okay, good.
I think it'd be a traffic calming device there, and the city's
For the
had some
bikers and everything. Yeah. Okay. I understand. Okay, thanks for the clarification on
Janet
that.
Reynolds, or Lee Gulch.
Yeah. And then I guess the other question is, the paving of the parking lots is the other amount we're discussing, not just curb gutter, but putting asphalt down. So is it more or less cost effective or advantageous to do asphalt versus some sort of crusher fine or some other alternate? And I'm getting a high five from Charlie. So I'm going to assume the answer to this is asphalt's preferred, but maybe you can explain why.
Yes, we think the asphalt is preferred. I'll let Mr. Gloston speak for himself if he'd like.
I think all you have to say is Southbridge Lane.
Southbridge Way, yeah.
Don't get into that part of it. I'm Charlie Boston, the city's Director of Public Services. In answer to your question, Councilman Stallman, asphalt, if applied correctly, can have a 20-year life expectancy.
Okay.
If you use some other lesser material, within 5 to 7 years, you're going to be replacing that again. We have tried recycled asphalt, and it does work, but we don't know the life expectancy of it because we just put it in last year. And you don't save a whole lot of money going from asphalt down to recycled asphalt.
Well, I guess that was sort of my question is, I mean, if we're talking $77,000 for asphalt, what are we talking for this?
That's a bargain.
Okay.
In our department, we would consider that a no-brainer. If you can get that money for asphalt and you're going to get 20 years out of it, that's wonderful.
All right. Out of curiosity, how much would the refurbished asphalt or the
recycled asphalt might be 80% of that?
All right. So 50 some odd thousand, almost 60,000. Okay. Thank you.
I think we mentioned that the actual asphalt bids came in where we projected 3 years ago, so that price is very good.
Okay.
Bill?
Just very quickly, and Dave, it's not a question, it's just a comment. Particularly like the placement back of the roundabout. It was one of the things that I think is very important, is that safety at the trail intersection that occurs there. And then the access that's provided year-round to get to the trail, particularly with that last parking spot, so that folks can actually go there, use their car, and then bike on the trail wherever their commute might be.
The area gets tremendous use, as you know.
Any other discussion? Having been through a number of projects that we estimated one cost and the cost came in as something else, the reality is you don't know what it's really going to cost until you put out the bids and somebody gives you a bid price. You can estimate what the cost is, but you don't really know. And if the price comes in substantially different than what you estimated, then the real question is, do you want to continue with the project at the new price or do you not? In our case, we are under a time constraint in order to be able to utilize GOCO funds. It looks to me like they're putting in about $265,000 on this. Part of the issue was to get this done by the end of the year to get GOCO money. The other issue, and I want to make this clear, is that the money that we would be spending from this is open space money. That money can only be spent on open space and park-related issues. It cannot be spent on general fund or wages or salary positions in the cities. We can only spend that on specific purposes, and we have that money. Most of that came from Arapahoe County open space tax. If we tax the citizens to give us some money, then I think we're obligated to spend the money on the purposes that they chose to tax themselves to give it for, and this is one of those purposes. So that's why I made the motion. I can support us paving our own parking lots, and I can support the roundabout at the end. Further discussion? The motion, Bruce.
I just was going to a certain extent, I don't disagree with any of your comments there, but I think Councilmember Brinkman brought up a fairly good point, that Dave, that to the extent that there's a lot of stuff in this staff report from the perspective of basic project development kind of stuff, the surveying and the curb gutter and so forth. I understand it's 3 years old, but I guess I'd be remiss if I didn't, in my mind, chime in as well and sort of say, I think, given that we're doing these types of projects together, it's, I think, appropriate to try to raise the bar a little bit in terms of the quality, the estimates. And if we are 3 years out on some of this stuff, revisiting some of those numbers seems reasonable to me as well. So just, obviously, I'm not trying to pile on, but I think that's something that's reasonable.
Well, in fairness, I think we have a pretty good track record of coming in on bids and doing a good job of estimating. This project was so complicated because there's 7 different people that have easements across that property, and each one had to have special surveying, manhole covers moved, all kinds of additional things that, frankly, we didn't think about when we started the project. So your point's well taken, and we'll do our best in the future.
I understand. Thank you.
All right, the motion is for the city to provide $133,663.90 of additional funding for South Platte Park improvements from the Open Space Fund and add the roundabout. Council ready to vote? Bill?
Sorry.
The vote is 7 in favor. The motion's approved.
Thank you, Dave.
Well, thank you very much, and I know our board will be very pleased, and I know our mutual citizens will be very pleased when this project is completed. And our goal is to have it completed by the end of the year. Our contractor is under construction.
Great.
Thank you very much for your support.
Certainly. That brings us to the added item 9B, which is a discussion on the impact of the ballot initiatives in response to a question that we all got in a letter in our packets. Peggy.
Oops. I emailed you and Jim asking would you two be ready to discuss this?
Oh,
to,
I must
to
have
briefly summarize. You didn't read your email?
Well, I can lead off, and I know the mayor, because he prepared a lot of the resolution that the council passed, really encouraging people to look very closely at these. But the council may recall that earlier in the summer, our finance department, or really actually going into late spring when we knew the issues had been certified, did an analysis, and I'm going to give you a range because some of it is not, it's not totally certain as to what different court cases might come down on interpretation of these, but our conservative estimate ranges somewhere between, if all three were to pass, it could range from $2 to $4 million a year, depending on some of the, again, some of these interpretations. So $2 million, it would definitely be out of the general fund. Then if depending on some of the interpretation, whether the state would backfill, there perhaps could be as much as $1.5 million of transportation-related funds. So we gave the council a range of revenue loss of ranging between $2 to $4 million per year, based on how some of those interpretations might come down.
Well, so let me comment, because the person was particularly wanting to know the impact on Littleton Housing Authority, shopping cart, omnibus, and then some things that are not related to Littleton's budget.
I remember I sent that on to you. Let me specifically the Housing Authority, which of course is not directly under the city, but I think because it's a
authority.
It's an authority. Is it possible that they could have to pay
property taxes? Yes.
I don't know.
They apparently already do on their
Okay.
new acquisitions. They said they haven't taken those off the rolls, so I don't know what effect it would have on them.
I'm not sure we know. That's maybe one of those fuzzy areas, Dr. Cole.
The Housing
The
Authority.
Housing Authority. The omnibus, which the citizen asked about, could certainly be affected because that's funded by our general fund. And I'm sorry, what was the other
Shopping
one?
cart.
The shopping cart. Both of those are services that are funded directly by the city's general fund. So those are two services that could potentially be at risk if these amendments were to pass.
And so, as we mentioned in an earlier item tonight, we're going into with the 2011 budget right now anticipates that we will be just over $300,000 in the hole.
And that's with already making $2 million in cuts.
Right.
I mean, so that's still what's left after we've already made.
Right. And yeah, so I'm going to emphasize this, that we already have cut that $2 million, and we still have a $300,000 anticipated shortfall in projected revenues versus expenditures. So we had, in case the people who sent the communication to council didn't see the budget sessions, we had agreed, as was also mentioned earlier, if we are in difficulty, quite apart from these ballot initiatives, we will be looking right now at furloughs, but possibly other things too, but furloughs. If these ballot initiatives pass, we have a significantly larger issue to deal with.
Yes,
and
ma'am.
nobody, I think, on this council is going to be eager to cut omnibus or shopping cart, but we have to make sure that we do fund the things that are absolutely essential to the safety and welfare, and so forth of the community. So in my mind, it's a very distressing predicament we might be facing.
Could be very difficult. Yes, ma'am.
And just to address the items that aren't in the city and to address the questions that were posed, with regard the impact that the amendment and the initiative and the proposition may have on Medicaid, I would suggest listening to the candidates for state representative and state senate that is occurring, because Medicaid is funded in part by the state, which is going to have pressure even without the amendments and propositions. So I'll just mention that on the budget. And then Medicaid is otherwise funded by the federal budget. And so listen to the both Senate and congressional candidates as to how they might deal with this type of an issue. And then with regard, the question is the impact on Arapahoe County. They've done an analysis, and the county commissioners have come out speaking on these amendments and propositions, and would suggest the individual look to their website or their county commissioners on that issue.
And I believe the figures that Jim gave are the first-year figures. Each one of these, or Proposition 101 rather, has an income tax provision on it that would cut the income tax if that were passed. That's phased in over 10 increments that may take multiple years to take place. The automobile fees and ownership tax is reductions are phased in over a 4-year time frame. That would affect us, we think, most directly, depending on what happens with the court cases and whether we're actually affected. I believe we said in the resolution the impact after 4 years was $3 to $4.5 million, something else like that. So the reason why Jim was giving those figures is that's the first year impact as opposed to after 4 years. And as Phil and Peggy both mentioned, we really don't know what the impact to Arapahoe County will be. I believe they passed a resolution in opposition to this. There may be information on their website on what the impact will be. We're not sure what the impact is to the Housing Authority. They generate their own funds. We appoint their board, but they're basically financially separate from us. And if these pass, we really don't know. We don't know for sure what the impact will be, and we don't know what it is that we will be cutting. And I don't think there's any way that we can predict that until we see what the results are of the election and what some of the court decisions are, and then couple that with what's actually happening with the economy across the state and specifically in Littleton. So it's pretty hard for us to estimate what the cuts that we would do if these were to pass, but to put them in perspective. If the assumptions in the Blue Book are correct, and after 4 years we would suffer somewhere between $3 to $4.5 million worth of reductions, to put this in perspective, we spend about $1 million a year on road repaving in Littleton. We spend about $1.5 million on the library.
$2.5 million on the library, $1.5 million on the museum.
Thank you. $2.5 million on the library and $1.5 million on the museum. And I give those figures just so that the public has an idea of what things cost, because it's pretty difficult for them to know what this impact is. Once again, we don't know what we will do for cuts if these were to pass. So I provide those figures basically as a reference point to get an idea of what things cost in the city.
And I think there was an estimate a couple of years ago, and it's unfortunate the commanders aren't present, but it was about $1 million supports for police officers.
Okay, anything else on that?
Thank you.
All right, reports, Mr. City Manager.
I don't have anything additional tonight.
I should mention that I believe we're going to schedule the city manager's evaluation for next Tuesday.
Did you want that next Tuesday or the 17th? Your call.
Or the 18th.
I believe it's the 19th.
Yeah. The 19th.
But that's okay.
Yeah, in my email, I had suggested after the next regular meeting.
I was thinking the second council meeting. I'm sorry. If you guys don't want to meet on a Sunday night, I'm game.
What's the
meeting, council meeting or study session?
Well, that's what I'm asking for clarification. The study session or the council meeting on the 19th.
What's the agenda look like on the study session?
We have
week?
a presentation on it's 2 items, presentation on the sheriff's site, and then a look at the special capital projects fund that Councilman Cernanek had requested to look at that in more detail than you looked at during your budget session. So
Well, Council, what's your druthers? We have a bunch of second readings on the 19th. We probably have 2 hours worth of study session topic things. Is that what your estimate is?
Yes, sir.
Do it on the 12th.
Why are you only looking at me, Jim?
All right. Let's, I move we do it on the 12th.
Second.
Does the 12th work for you?
Yes, sir.
Sir? All right. All in favor of the 12th?
The vote is 7 in favor. The motion's approved.
Okay, we'll settle that.
Mr. Mayor, we do have a set of objectives and so forth, so
I will send those
particularly our new people will.
Yes, and I will attempt to have the right version when I send it out this time. Anything else?
No, sir.
Okay.
I don't have anything.
Dr. Cole.
I had in late August, about a month ago, a few weeks ago, I sent an email to council suggesting that we reserve 1 or 2 days after the election to meet in case we need to address the budget with additional cuts. And I don't know how, nobody responded, which you didn't have to, of course, but I still think it would be good, given the way the 7 of us have quite diverse schedules, to reserve some time in case we need it.
I guess my preference would be to wait until after the election and see what happens, because my guess is if they pass, then we'll probably see some court actions pretty quickly. And so I don't know that we'll know enough immediately right after the election to do anything with the budget. So I guess my personal preference is to wait for the election and then look at what's taking place and then try and figure out what an appropriate meeting time would be.
Would you have an idea of what time in case we have to? I mean, the 7 of us seem to have a very difficult time, even 2 months in advance scheduling.
I think if we've got a ballot issue that explodes on that election night, the 7 of us, if we need to, we can clear some time and meet as we need to. I'd rather not schedule it in right now.
My guess is we do it during a regularly scheduled, one or multiple regularly scheduled
Okay,
council
that's all
meetings.
right. I just didn't want us to.
Yeah, which may mean that other business gets pushed back, but so be it. Is that all right?
Okay, that's fine. I just wanted to air that. Then in late August, I sent the other 3 council people who are on the council audit committee a request that we meet to discuss the GASB, GASB, all in capitals, GASB 54, and council financial policy documents. And I'm still requesting that. I mean, we'd never discussed that. And so there are not major things in there, but I think there are a few things that we ought to meet and talk about. And then if we want to make recommendations to council, then we could do that.
Just on that one, Peggy, I was hoping that Doug Farman would give us enough background to work with those two. So I was kind of looking, I had put that question back.
Okay, well, I mean, when I had talked to him before I emailed the 3 of you, and he thought it would be a good idea to meet. So,
I'm going to recommend that the audit committee meet in October, sometime in October. And what I suggest is we set up a meeting time. Unless you guys want to do it right now, because we don't know what Mr. Furman's availability is either.
Did you want Bondi in on that or just internal?
Let's start internal, and then we can figure out what it is that we want to do.
Okay.
Okay.
Does that sound all right?
Yeah.
Okay. So we'll figure out a schedule time after we get Doug here.
So do you want us to wait then on the audit committee to give us some dates, or?
Yeah, which, I'll send an email to Doug and see what his availability
Okay,
is.
and then just
And then
coordinate with
coordinate it
everybody.
with the rest of the people.
All right.
Thank you. Then,
And we do have to post that, because we have
Yes, sir.
4.
On a brighter side, on September 25th, Saturday, there was a very nice event at the library from about 10 until 2, I believe. 40 people read passages from banned books as part of Banned Books Month recognition and so forth. Some very, very moving passages from books that had been banned at some time, someplace in this country. And it was just delightful. I was there for part of the time, and it was delightful. There were a couple of children who read. There were a couple of quite older people and people in between, and people who came from some other countries who are now citizens here. And it was really a moving event. And next year I'll try to remember to give heads up to the public to get more people aware of that. Then we heard about the Santa Claus Santa Claus shop volunteer opportunities. I hope some people out in the audience might volunteer to help with that. Encourage people to donate toys and money and so forth. But also encourage people to look for other opportunities where they can volunteer. Museum needs volunteers. Library still needs more volunteers. Public schools need volunteers in several capacities. And there are many other places that would welcome volunteers. So I encourage everybody to see if they might have some time they can contribute. Thank you.
Phil?
Thank you, Doug. A couple of items. Jim, just I'll make the public request on the succession planning Phase 1 report, if we can get that, and then what's the scope in Phase 2 that's out there. And then also what's being done as far as our knowledge management practices.
Yes, sir.
And then...
Want a memo for that?
That would be fine.
Okay, because I have some observations and I think some discussion with all 7 of you about those items.
Those would be great.
Yes, sir.
So just questions and issues that are out there.
Yes, sir.
Given our discussion in the budget about positions and vacated positions and reduction in positions, if we could also include in our informational package or our reports on a monthly basis authorized positions, and you might want to separate 2010 versus 2011 and to get some evaluation on that front.
Got it.
Thank you. South Suburban, they've been conducting their budget discussions as well as fee items, so stay tuned. They haven't fully approved all of that. They've just gone through some of their discussion items around that. Also, they're going to have a forthcoming art map. There's about 50 art items across the South Suburban Park and Rec District, and they'll be having those. For folks on the south end of town, tomorrow, as Chief Mullen indicated to us, there is a regional disaster exercise. It doesn't include most of Littleton, but it does include Littleton Hospital in that exercise. So folks, please don't get too alarmed, and let's hope it is the exercise that is going on that front.
Let's hope that's a disaster.
Thank you. It was kind of interesting just to observe that construction continues to occur at areas around the city. The Hyundai dealership on Broadway, the construction that's going on behind Aspen Grove, and the Littleton Tavern that's going up where the Jet Lounge was. At least those are ones that I've had a chance to come into contact with, and so I think that's been pretty exciting in what's going on. And with a number of happenings between the Friends of the Littleton Museum and Library activity, the market that was at Aspen Grove on Saturday, I kept on running into lots of people.
Thank you, Jim.
Nothing.
Doug. Bruce.
I'm sure going to bypass me.
Tipsy.
Yeah. I respect that. I gave one of these to Joe. These, and I emailed you guys these. These were the October court calendars, just to make sure everybody's got one. Presiding Judge Anderson sent them over this afternoon, so I forwarded them, but not everybody necessarily. I know Peggy got one, but as per the contract, he indicated he was providing. Is there an extra? Okay. Providing his coverage plan for the court, which I thought was good information.
Perhaps, if I can, Bruce, we can, can he just send it to all council? And
I will pass that back along to him. I think I had emailed him at one point, and so he sent it to me because he had my email address, but I'll ask him to, take the opportunity.
and then you don't have
everyone.
to.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's totally legitimate.
And utilize the all-city council.
Exactly. And I don't know, and I think I copied Suzanne, Jim, and Phil as well, so I assume you guys got it, but there's a couple extras. Okay, nifty. And Phil, I caught something there at the end about the Friends. You didn't give any sort of an update on the craft fair, did you?
Just to say I ran into lots of people.
Okay, yeah, I fair point. I didn't quite catch that, but in talking with Tim Nims, who was there pretty much all day, and the team, it was another stellar event. He estimated somewhere between 18 and 19,000 patrons attended. Weather couldn't have been more perfect, so, the proverbial good time was had by all. And if you can't get enough of the museum and library festivities, and of course, who can? The Harvest Festival at the Littleton Museum, of course, is this coming weekend, Saturday 9th and 10th Saturday 9th from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. The admission is free. There will be wagon rides, cider, refreshments, food concessionaire, and of course you can purchase your pumpkins for Halloween. There will be, a lady named Liz Masterson will be providing musical stylings from 10 to 12:30, and then a national touring duo, Wilson and McKee, will be performing between 1 and 3. They do a variety of Irish and Scottish acoustic music. I have no indication that they will be doing What Do You Do with a Drunken Sailor, but I'm sure they take requests if anyone is interested. So, or Irish Rover, which was always one of my favorites. Let me see, I had one other item, or maybe not. Oh yeah, I know what it was. The Historic Preservation Design Guidelines Workshop, was happy to pinch hit for Councilmember Cernanek at his request. That was on the 29th of September, and this is sort of the extension of the old True Grit. It's the next phase, if you will, in terms of historic preservation. Probably had, 20 some odd people in attendance, a lot of the folks from downtown, property owners and so forth. Norrie Winter moderated the thing again. He had been involved with the True Grit activity, and again went through a lot of the processing of information in terms of what are the options for properties in the downtown historic district, from a progression or a continuum from restoration, reconstruction, interpretation, contemporary interpretation versus simplified, preservation, repair, replacement, reconstruction, and then compatible alterations kind of stuff. So it's a fairly technical, but honestly thought that there was a good dialogue and some pretty strong engagement by a wide variety of people who were in it, including the folks from the Historic Preservation Board, so a good activity in that regard. And then this week's ever-popular, often imitated, never duplicated Merchant Plug of the Week goes to an establishment that I promised I would bring back in, or bring back up, But the interesting thing about Littleton, I think we see the wide and eclectic nature of the merchants throughout the community. Anywhere from ones that I've mentioned before, you've got Crazy Merchant over at Windermere and Bellevue that does a lot of beading activities and hobby and craft-related kinds of things, all the way up to the Mercedes dealership and everything and anything in between. Downtown, we've got an absolutely wonderful high-end clothing store called Austin Hauk. Been here for a number of years, and if you've been to places like Los Angeles or Beverly Hills or Chicago or New York, you would not be surprised to find a clothier of Austin Hauk's character and quality, nor should you be surprised to find it in Littleton with the diversity of the merchants that we have. So it's quite the treat to go in, and if you have the time and the interest, it's highly recommended, and you won't find a better store for men's clothing, suits, sport coats, trousers, shirts, ties, you name it, they've got it. Thanks.
I'll remind Council Stallman that you used to have gift cards.
I did, but I never had one to Austin Hauk.
I think $1,000 would be a good one to go.
I'll talk to him about that.
Jose, and you told me you were Irish, didn't you?
I am Irish,
Okay.
Mediterranean.
That's what I thought.
This coming week, we have the Greater Littleton Youth Initiative, and the subject is going to be suicide amongst the teenagers we have, and also the kids that are up there in their early 20s. We've had, if you read the paper a lot, you'll see that there's a lot of folks committing suicide, and like this particular one I remember is this young man that's playing football, just out of the blue, just blow your brains out. And so I assume it's going to be very interesting, and I'll be there. Peggy will be there, and Jim.
And Jose, you might mention that members of the public are invited to attend those meetings and where they are, in case somebody might particularly want to come to this one or any other one.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Public is invited.
Well, yeah, but where
And
are they,
It's at the Chamber of Commerce. Metro Chamber. Yeah, so.
At 3.
At 3 o'clock, yep. I've been going to the Broadway Assistance Center now for a while, and this is an organization that feeds the street people downtown Denver. And if you would like to come join us sometime, I think it's a event you'll remember for a long time. We have we feed sometimes 200 to 400 people on Thursday evenings. That's our particular time of the week. There are other centers around Denver that do it on different days so that they can catch everybody. But the Broadway Assistance Center has doctors show up and give out, light prescriptions, nothing heavy, aspirins and those things that they need. They get toilet tissues and they get toothbrushes, all the things like that. And we have a bank for shoes and clothes. And I was a little skeptical about going down the first time. I thought, well, it'll just be one of those things where everybody rushes in and they're in so much of a hurry that you really don't get to talk to them. But it's been completely opposite. Those people are very appreciative of what's happening there, and they serve very nice meals. They've got a few guys that do the cooking during the day, and so that it's just a new experience because a lot of them are old veterans. A lot of them are people that sleep under the bridges and sleep by the river, and most of them are very, very happy people. There's no other way to be. They haven't got anything, so.
Where's this Broadway Assistance Center?
The Broadway Center was, until last week, was working out of the church on 6th and Galapago. Now they're over at the projects at 9th and Mariposa, and they have a center there. So it's not as big, but it serves about 200 at a time. So if you ever want to go down, just give me a call.
Okay.
All right. Interfaith needs money and food, so don't forget them. And I'd just like to tell you that with this election coming up, the only thing I would advise to you is to just go home, lay your head down on the pillow, and take a nice rest, because if you remember a few years ago, there was a big cyclone coming in down in Florida, and it's those things that you can't worry about forever. They're going to hit you sometime, but you don't know how bad. They're still working on that down there, and it'll be years and years before they recover. That's basically all.
Yeah, thank you, Jose.
Thanks.
Jim, Dr. Cog.
No report.
Okay.
Make a motion. I move that City Council convene an executive session pursuant to Section 24-6-402, paren 4, paren B, and 24-6-402, paren 4, paren E, to receive legal advice and instruct negotiators regarding Denver water contract.
To include, can you add the staff?
Sure. Go ahead.
Well,
To include all city council, city manager, city attorney.
Public
and-
Services Director Charlie Bloston, and Deputy City Manager Phil Cortez.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to go into executive session. Takes 5 votes. Discussion?
The vote is 6 in favor, with Councilman Trujillo voting no, and the motion is approved.
I admire consistency.
And
We will, we will not be doing any regular business when we get back, so this will end our televised portion. Let's meet in the conference room at 9 o'clock. Thank you.